All right, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back into another episode of Don't Call It a Podcast. So, as I mentioned last week, and as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we were going to have a special guest on whenever we kind of got things back rolling. And so, a couple weeks ago, I was just, I think, browsing on YouTube. I have a odd habit of after the gym, like I'll get in the car and just kind of look at my phone for a little bit because I won't have the energy to drive. And so, for about 5 minutes. I kind of sat there and I got a notification on YouTube and realized I didn't want to watch that video. And underneath it, I saw a video from the account Toonrific Tariq. And it was a piece about um, black animation. It was called, I think it was called How to Black. Is that correct, Tariq?
Yep.
Okay. So it's called How to Black. And it was just talking about, black representation animation in television. And so I thought it was just so enjoyable. It's such a great video. I've linked it in the description of this post. Please make sure you go watch it. But I think it does a great job of jumping on a bunch of different things when it comes to animation, representation, and really everything from that. So y'all have heard me talk enough. What I do want to do is kind of introduce today's guest. His full name is Tariq Harris. I believe you said your middle name is Shakur, right?
Yeah, my dad
Okay.
was like a huge Tupac fan, so
Okay.
I'll quote that.
And that really makes me feel old. Like if your dad, like I'm not old by any means, but if your dad had a son that he could name after Tupac, and like Tupac was a thing while you know what I'm saying, like
Yeah.
while I was a child, Tupac was this thing. So anyway, so Tariq is an artist, so to speak. Well, not so to speak. Tariq is an artist, and so what I want to do is let Tariq kind of introduce himself and who you are. Tell us about who you are and what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Tariq Harris, Toonrific Tariq, Toons.Reek on Instagram. I've kind of like, and it's crazy because I have a video on my channel where I kind of like talk about this like weird existential crisis I went through as an artist, trying to figure out who exactly I am and what I do. But I do cartoon analysis videos, and I do art pieces, I do portraits, I do covers, I animate, you know what I mean? I do like all these different things, and I try to incorporate different aspects of not even just my life, but the culture and everything that I do. That's kind of where the idea for How to Black came, just from noticing that people didn't take animation as seriously as I did. And that's kind of always been like my mission ever since I was a kid, just to try to find a way to get people to care about it. And it was cool for How to Black to just kind of be that for a brief second, even if it was just for like 20 minutes out of everybody's day. Well, for 20 minutes, everybody just kind of sat and thought about animation differently instead of just a bunch of drawings on the screen. So that's my mission. And the fact that it kind of happened is like, oh, now I have to keep this up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I saw you mention something along the lines of you didn't expect the channel to blow up the way it did. Was it because of that video specifically?
Um, what really did it was, I think a year or two ago, I did a video. It was kind of like a sequel video to a different video I did, but I did a video talking about the Fairly Odd Parents, and they added a new character
Ah,
that shared the fairies with Timmy, and it was like really weird. So I did a video analyzing that, and then like I kind of like left that video alone, and then like months later that summer, like for some reason it just like blew up and it got to like 2 million. Then after it got to 2 million, YouTube decided to take it down. So then by then I kind of had like, I think I had like 30K subscribers, and then like when I finally put out How to Black, that kind of like springboarded everything even more, and to the point where I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, I didn't expect to like any of this, and I'm grateful for it, but I didn't like, I thought I would just have my like little like niche audience where I could just like talk and like talk everybody's head off and they would hear me for a brief second. But now like it's just gotten to the point where the reach is just so big. I'm totally grateful for it.
do you feel any kind of additional pressure at all with that, or do you still feel encouraged to just kind of still be the same you, or do you feel like every video now has to knock it out the park or something?
Um I think I feel like it's probably like because I know that when it first happened, I knew I kind of felt like a pressure to like talk about stuff and like be like, okay, I have to hit this, I have to hit that. And I think what made it a little different this time around when how the black became the thing that everybody kind of knew me for now was that was me talking about something that wasn't current. Instead, it was something that was going on. You know what I mean? So it was like something that was ongoing, something that was constant. I could have analyzed that whole situation with a completely different show. It didn't even have to just be Craig of the Creek. But the fact that people like latched on to me talking about something that was just like um more of a constant, it was dope because now I don't even really feel any pressure. I feel like I could kind of talk about anything, any broad topic, and like tie it back to animation. And I think like the real pressure just comes from like people wanting content faster. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I my schedule is like it's non-existent. You know what I mean? But and that's because I think about these things a lot when I do these videos, and I like I have like these internal dialogues with myself before I even like write my notes down. And even then when I put it together, like it just takes a while to like put it together because I spend so much time on like details that people probably don't even notice when they watch the video. So the only pressure I think I feel right now would probably just be to like do more. But there's been such a great reaction and so much conversation has started that I'm just like now I'm eager. You know what I mean? Like now I want to keep this going. I want to like have more of these conversations and things.
Well, I mean, it's definitely an important conversation to have, as you and I kind of talked about off air. So, a big reason why we wanted to bring Tariq on is, for those of y'all that have been following our website, kidswearcrimes.com, we do kind of project ourselves as a blerdom sort of thing, that kind of that overlap of, black culture and nerd culture that for a long time really wasn't allowed to marry. And so, you made a good point talking about different kinds of the black experience when you say, we have the Craigs, we have the black people who grew up in the suburbs, we have the Gerald Johansons who are the really cool kids, and then we have the goobers, like Tyler the Creator was saying, in terms of the jellies, or in terms of just what's his name from Billy and Mandy, I can't think of Irwin, yeah. So we have all across the board all these different people existing, but for the larger audience, or for really the white audience, they don't understand that there's not one type of experience. It exists beyond this idea of the black person. And so it is insulting when you hear people say, well, the only reason why they made the character black is just to be different, instead of it being this person being a person, it now becomes a cultural statement. So take me through. I kind of asked you off air, when was the first time you saw a character on TV that you connected with? When was the first time, and it could be as young as you can remember, that you saw a character on TV and said, that's me. Like, I feel like that's me.
Because the way I kind of like the kind of kid I was like one of those like kids that like would, because I grew up in like, I don't, yeah, I guess I'll be honest. I grew up in like the hood, you know what I mean? So the kids I was around weren't really concerned about the things I was. I was the kid going to school quoting The Simpsons and like making Animaniacs jokes, you know what I mean? Like the kids around me didn't really think that was cool. So like a lot of the times I don't know if I ever really like got myself like fully when I was growing up. I always got characters that I admired instead. Like I bring up Gerald a lot in the video because I really, really like Gerald. Like Hey Arnold is my favorite cartoon ever made, but I really, really just I like Gerald because he was the cool guy, but he didn't judge anyone else. So that was like I wanted to be that. And I always admired like number 5 from Kids Next Door too, because she was just she would she would just take the lead, you know what I mean? She would like get in charge and everything like that. And I feel like that kind of like when I saw that happening, that made me want to like be a leader in certain situations, and that's what kind of like I feel like all the characters I saw kind of just brought out different characteristics that I knew were in me that I didn't really bring out until I like saw them. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right.
Yeah, I feel like that's what. Yeah,
No, I mean, because I can definitely see that. Like, I think growing up, I couldn't think of one character that I saw all the time that was like, that's me because, excuse me, I'm sorry. It was a black person in a cartoon. It was always more so kind of a personality thing. Like when you mentioned Animaniacs, I always loved like, Yakko Wacko Warner. I
yeah,
always like, it's kind of the more obscure ones where you couldn't really there wasn't really any kind of color to them, so to speak. As I
right.
got older, I enjoyed, like the AJs and the Static Shocks. Um,
Hmm.
I wasn't really a big fan of Recess, but what was his name? Vince.
Vince, yeah,
Vince was somebody I always liked as well. So like I think I always knew growing up that there was something to the fact that hey, I see this black character and I kind of identify with them, even if I couldn't put it to words. Um, Whereas it was more important for me to connect with kind of the comedy or just kind of the situation because as one of my friends used to say, one of my favorite characters growing up was Freakazoid and it shows. So it's just it's kind of that experience to be able to say, yo, okay, this person looks like me, or this person is they may not act like me, but I can see myself in them to an extent. And they sort of
yeah,
become a mouthpiece, if you will, uh, for I really don't know how to put it, but I think you put it a lot more elegantly in your video where they just kind of become this additional representation instead of you stacking layers onto something or instead of you multiplying something, you're stacking layers onto it and you're giving it depth.
hmm
So what drew you to animation? What is it about animation that you love? Because to me, it's the ability to expand outside of the limitations of reality.
yeah,
But what is it for you? Because this is something you've obviously dove into, not just from an analytical standpoint, but something that you actually do with purpose.
yeah. Um, For me, I remember my grandma taught me how to draw when I was like one, essentially. So like I grew up watching, we talked about like the characters that I connected to, but if we're talking about just like not even like physically seeing myself, but like emotionally, it was 1000% Charlie Brown. Like
Mm,
that I was that kid. I was the existential crisis kid, the one that would like overanalyze life atypically at the age of 8. Like
right, right.
so for me, like just like watching him like vocalize his emotions instead of like holding them back, kind of like how we're taught to do, like even as just men, you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like just watching him like vocalize everything like that was like that was refreshing to me. And just to see like the fact that like people drew these things and like they came to life. And I didn't know that people made money off animation until like
mhm.
my mother's boyfriend told me when I was like 11. And I wanted to do that way beforehand. But like I think what animation is to me is the generic. I don't want to say that you can do anything, but that really is what it is. You can create these little worlds, and whatever you see in your mind, it can come to the page, and you can tell these stories, and you can connect with these characters in ways that you probably can't even connect with characters in live action. I've heard people say that they can't like they don't really get emotional over animated stuff, and I don't even really see how, because you can the raw talent of an artist is just astounding. You know what I mean? And when you see it like peeling off the page or like on the screen, you know what I mean? Like how these characters feel and the emotions you could take them through. It's such a great medium. It's not even it's like it's treated like it's a genre, but it's not. You can do whatever and you can tell like these great stories that have been told in live action, and you can go different ways with it. And I feel like people realize that, but not essentially, because somewhere this is like a history thing, but somewhere in like the 80s, animation like flipped and became for kids. It kind of was a little before that, but relatively like the 80s is when animation flipped and like everybody's like, oh, okay, this is for kids. Like we don't have to pay attention to this anymore. And like
Yeah.
and it is bad because now you kind of have like these people that like kind of contradict and say like, oh, I don't watch cartoons, but you go to the YouTube history and Family Guy's funniest moments is there. You know what I mean? But then they
Right.
say, oh, that doesn't count. Like it does, but it. I think just the best thing about animation is just like it's just the emotion that it brings. You can like it just and I think it comes from like watching it younger. Like
Mhm.
when you have these connections to things from when you're younger, when you get older, they're still there. There's still a nostalgia for hand drawn animation. There's still a nostalgia for Woody and Buzz. Like you'll always get
Mhm.
people that were around. Like they're doing the fourth Toy Story. I don't think they should do it, but they're doing it, and we're gonna go because we still connect with them on a level. Like you can have a celebrity and they can say something wild and then they could get canceled and then you have to try not to be bothered with them anymore.
Mhm.
But you don't get that with animated characters. They kind of exist as you want them to. And that's the best thing is that you have this thing that is a constant in a world where like nothing is a constant.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with all those points 100%. I mean, you talked about the ability to invoke emotion. I think one of the biggest ones for me last year, my wife and I are huge fans of Adventure Time. And so,
Mm.
I recorded the finale, I watched the finale. It took my wife, a while to want to actually eventually watch it. In terms of just because she knew the emotional magnitude that it would bring.
Yeah.
But that's a fine point of somebody like an artist like Rebecca Sugar, who is so good at conveying so many different topics and emotions, and not to the point where it's heavy-handed either. It's not like they're walking you through the point of, well, we eventually as adults have to grow up and move on. That's not
Right.
what she's doing. What she's doing is taking this story, this world that's been created about a boy. It would start of a boy and his magic dog, and all of a sudden we go through these adventures and we learn about the whole history of this land that they created. And suddenly we care about these characters that don't exist outside of this medium, but
Yeah.
we care about them. To the point where we don't want to watch it in, but we're concerned that an animated treehouse gets smashed. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
these little things that you can just convey with a pen and paper. What starts off essentially is pen and paper, and like my parents are old school. My both of my parents are in their 60s now, but we watch cartoons a lot. Even before we had kids, we watched cartoons, and I would honestly say we watched more cartoons before we had kids than we do now that we do have kids. But it's when cartoons would be on there, like, y'all watching cartoons, why are y'all watching cartoons? And I think, like you said, it goes back to that stigma of, oh well, in the 80s it was the Mr. T show, and it was
Yeah.
it was Captain Planet and the Planeteers, and it was
Yeah.
all these kind of 80s and 90s, all these kind of fun inspirational messages for kids that kind of flipped the script on. I mean, one of the oldest cartoons out there is Wait Till Your Father Gets Home. And that was definitely not for children. You
Oh
know what
yeah.
I'm saying? like, you know, that that was one of those things that Cartoon Network would air late at night in the 90s before they had Adult Swim, because that wasn't, 7, 8-year-old me had no business watching that. I wouldn't get the jokes. But
Mhm.
it just shows you how deep and how kind of evolving this medium is. And so I guess, we talk about, you talked a little bit about representation and how I think it's funny how we can have entire cartoons about Speedy Hedgehogs and a boy and his magical dog, as I said, but we can't find black women. uh it,
Yeah.
what do you think is, I know the reasoning behind it. What do you think it would take to change it and not have all of them be voiced by Cree Summer? And I love Cree Summer, but but what is it going to take? Because I mean, think of every black female character that has existed in animation, and
Mhm.
think about how many of them. Like, I'm sure you could do a BuzzFeed article of, was this animated character played by Cree Summer? Click to find out. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sure you could honestly do that. What do you think it'll take for that to change? And I know this is not an easy answer, and I know it's a long
Yeah.
answer, but what do you think? Does that ever happen?
I think it's kind of like minute, but it's kind of like a thing where it's like there has to be someone that's willing to, I guess, take the first step. I remember when I put the video together and I found that clip, Cree, and she was talking about how they think that black girls don't like comics or sci-fi and things like that, but the truth is that they love it. It's like, because I think even then I made a statement in the video about how, like, if you question why a character is the race that they are, you kind of are implying that you feel like being white is the default, and that's kind of the same thing that's happening with being male. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, okay, so we'll make a character black, but he just has to be a boy. You know what I mean? Like, it's it kind of flips it and makes black women to be like this like anomaly that like just can't be like handled the right way, which isn't true. I remember when the Proud Family happened, I think is like the last real time that there was like a prominent like black woman character that was like in the front of the show. And like it was just because I think it was just because Bruce W. Smith was like, I didn't see any. So like he could have chose to make it a little black boy, but instead he was like, no, we want to follow this black girl and the things that she does when she goes to school, dealing with rumors, dealing with Black History Month. You know what I mean? Like wanting to be on the football team. Like they did a lot of like really like they did a lot of stuff that they almost didn't have to do on the Proud Family. And I know I kind of got like a lot of comments of people saying that like how it had like hints of colorism, which is something that I actually wrote in my notes, but I can't for the life of me remember why I didn't like put it in the video. But they definitely did a lot of things right. And I think when that happened, this is kind of like a wild example, but it's kind of like when To Kill a Mockingbird came out and then like nobody tried to remake that because they did it so well the first time. So like nobody wants to do that again because it's like, oh, okay, they have that. But these kids don't have that. The Proud Family ended in like 2004, 2005. Like I remember seeing that SpongeBob movie, the first one when it came out in 2004. But if a kid was born that day, they would be like a sophomore in high school.
And they're not seeing that right now. Yeah, no, I mean, no, I feel that 100%. Because if you think about it, the last, I could be off on this, but the last non-caricature, nah, I can't even get the word out because I've been coughing. But the last non-caricature black woman that you could think of in animation was what? Valerie from Josie and the Pussycats. I mean, Penny Proud, before Penny, it was her, and she was she was groundbreaking because she was the smart one of the group. She was the inventor. She was the scientist.
Yeah.
And you have this gap between her and every other one is just kind of this sassy stereotype, so to speak. And not to say that there's nothing more to their character, but the obvious push for them, like a Susie Carmichael initially, is little sassy black girl. And so I think, like you said, she was so groundbreaking and so important, and nobody's touched it since. And it's a shame that you know what I'm saying, that hasn't been the case. I mean, around the similar time frame, maybe Libby and Jimmy Neutron, but
then that goes to the sassy thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as time went on, they pulled away from the sass and just made her, more of the popular chick type, archetype, but still that kind of stuck with her. And I think it's it's good that we have like a Doc McStuffins now. Like my daughter can watch TV and see a Doc McStuffins and see, a kid show that's aimed at somebody at her age, where the protagonist is this creative little black girl who does, she comes from a family where her mother is a doctor, all that kind of stuff. Like that does mean something. And as my child grows up, it's going to be a little more normal for her to think about being a doctor than it would have been for maybe a black woman who's my age. And so those things do change. But I think, like you said, that kind of goes to the importance of animation and the role that it can play. And you mentioned a little bit of something on there about on your video. 2 points I definitely wanted to get into because I don't know if it was in your intention, but you did go in on Cleveland show a little bit, and that's fine because I completely
I did
understand.
that on purpose. I've been having that cooking up for years.
You brought the cough back up. No. Okay, no, but that's important because I think you made an excellent point there. That was it's that fine line of who's writing this and what is the point?
Right.
Because Seth MacFarlane writing Family Guy is different from Seth MacFarlane's team writing the Cleveland show. If they don't do it the way that Good Times did it. So from that standpoint, from that Cleveland show standpoint, tell me, because you said that had been cooking up for a while. Was that something that you know, the first time you ever saw the Cleveland show that you were like, was this bullshit? Or is it was there something that you kind of sat back over time and looked at it and said, okay, now I see what's wrong with it? You know what I'm saying? Were you able to identify the problem immediately, or is it something that over time you kind of picked up on?
You know what? The funny thing about the Cleveland show is that they kind of gave me my whole argument in the first episode. I remember when it first came out. I was young when it first came out. I was in like middle school when the Cleveland show first came out.
Don't give me age guidelines because I was in college. So. Just say you were young and just keep it. Just go ahead. But no, go ahead.
I remember when it first came out, and I remember I was like looking at the promo stuff before it was happening, and then I play a bit of the promo in the video where instead of like the lyric everybody knows, my happy mustache face, he says my happy black guy face.
Yep.
And I remember immediately being like, okay, this is what they're gonna do. And then like when the show came out in the first episode, there's a joke, there's like a flashback. Roberta says something like, oh, that's like white people writing a show that they know like for black people or something like that. And then like they put like a clip of like, I don't know, just like this really outrageously like trying so hard to be black, like kind of like cutaway gag. And I was like, wait a minute, that's kind of what this is. Cause I knew who Seth MacFarlane was. I knew who mess his name up. I think his name is Mike Henry, the voice of Cleveland, but I knew who he was, and I knew who like all the other people were. And I'm like, okay, if this is gonna be this type of show, it's okay if you treat them like a normal family, but instead they're kind of like, I think in that same season is when they did the Kanye West thing, and I'm like, there were no rappers on Family Guy, like, so now suddenly rappers exist in this universe because there's a bunch of black kids here, like, and it would have been cool if you sort of treated it with a little bit more respect. So it's like I kind of like felt that way ever since it began, and it kind of just like kept going. The more the show kept going, and I would go to high school, and like people were watching it, like on like this is like when Netflix first started, and you could first start getting it on your phone. Like people were watching it on like hood kids I knew were like watching it and laughing at it. I'm like, why is this funny? Because this isn't like the Boondocks where it's like us making fun of us. They are deliberately making fun of us in this cartoon in front of our eyes, and we're eating it up. They're trying to act like they're saying something about us, but you can't try to critique a culture that you aren't immersed in because you don't understand every nuance of it. You know what I mean? And like the more I saw, and the more they tried to do the whole, because they tried to do the whole narrative of like, oh, Cleveland Jr. is the atypical black boy. He doesn't have to be this way. He doesn't have to do that. And that's cool. But then you have a list of other characters that you are making the atypical black boy, and they have to do this, they have to do that. Like Rollo, why is Rollo hitting on the girls in his class? Like, why can't he be like Stewie and build stuff and do other things like that? Why does he have the afro? Why does, like, you know what I mean? Like, why is Roberta like have the streak in her hair and like talk back to her parents the entire time and like roll her neck with sass and all this other, like, we don't need any of that. And I remember noticing that from like the first time it came out. And I would just like sit on it. And I was kind of like, because I got a bunch of people in the comments saying that they didn't I kind of articulated how they felt about Cleveland show, and they didn't really know how to put it into words. When I was finally putting the video together, I remember just writing in my notebook, and I was just like, this is the first time I'm actually able to say what I mean about this show, because it's like, and that's why I think the Good Times example like really helped, because I did like a bunch of research trying to figure out just how Good Times work, you know what I mean? And like, because that whole like era of television is just like always been fascinating to me, just because of how all those shows are like spinoffs and everything like that, and like how the Jeffersons was created and everything. So it just shows like they didn't think when they made it. They didn't think about the implications of it and the fact that it was on Fox, one of the biggest networks, and that so many people saw it. And like, honestly, even just to close the point out, on Family Guy, they did a joke after the Cleveland show got canceled, and they were like, "Who did y'all do that show for? A bunch of people that's never met a black person before?" Because that's what it felt like.
No, true. No, I agree with that 100%. And I think that was my thing. I think I watched a couple episodes of it, and I was like, this is something that makes you just kind of uneasy when you watch it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you can't quite put your finger on it. Well, okay, so I'm gonna ask you two more things, and I'm gonna let you go. And these are on lighter subjects. So I know you already told us that Hey Arnold was your favorite cartoon of all time growing up, and so it seems like you were raised on a few things kind of before, or that kind of came out before you were born, a little bit before your time. So tell me, what were some of your favorite cartoons from childhood?
Yeah, so there was definitely like Arnold, and I loved all of the Cartoon Network stuff. Like I loved like the Powerpuff and Kids Next Door and Dexter's Lab. I remember I didn't really like get into The Simpsons until I was 10, because that I keep doing the age thing, but the movie came out when I was like 10.
Oh God!
And
All right.
that's when I was like, oh, I have to like go back and like understand like why this is so popular and why this is so influential.
Right.
So then I like fell into that. Charlie Brown was just something that I watched. I still watch every year. I watch all of the specials, even the obscure ones. Like I watched the New Year's special. Like I don't even know anybody else who watches that one. Let's see what else. I feel like if I like go back and listen to this and I realize I forgot a show that was like really important to me, I'm gonna like kick myself. But you know, like Jimmy Neutron. Even if we're gonna go shows that are way before my time, I used to love the Felix the Cat shorts.
Oh wow, okay.
Popeye for sure. That was my grandfather's favorite. I used to Tom and Jerry, I think, is like the most beautifully, the Hanna-Barbera ones at least, are like the most beautifully constructed, like animated anythings I've ever seen, because they're so precise, and you don't really see anything that looks like them, you know?
Right.
Like, so those Tom and Jerry cartoons are just like amazing to me. Yeah, I've always been the show guy. I never was like the one that, it's crazy because my major is film in college, but I never was like the guy that like really loved the animated films. I like shows just because you stay with the characters every week and you grow with them and you like see them all the time. That's why like I always love series finales, because when they end. Speaking of it, I just remembered I really liked Pepper Ann. That was great. Pepper Ann. Oh man, I'm gonna forget. I'm gonna like, I swear to God, I'm gonna like go through like my Rolodex and I'm be like, oh man, like I forgot like Cat Dog. Like I'm gonna say something like really like obscure that I forgot about. But
well, along those lines though, so if you could live in any of those universes, which one would it be?
This is kind of like, I've always really liked how a Goofy movie was. Like not even Goof Troop, just like the movie, like with Powerline and everything. I always liked like that, because you haven't seen that before or after, like that 90s R&B vibe. in a Disney movie or in any animated anything.
Right.
And I really like that. I like how the characters are drawn. I like the clothes that they wear. They're kind of 90s, but they're kind of universal. It's like, I don't know. I always really, I always like that. And that's like, because it's not even really that different from our universe. It's just everybody's a dog.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what it says that I want to be a dog, but that's
Well,
definitely, yeah.
no. That's all good. Look, Tariq, man, I appreciate you taking the time out with us today. Make sure y'all follow him on Instagram at tunes.reek. The O's in tunes are zeros, so T00NS.RIQ. You can find him on YouTube if you search for Toonrific Tariq. You can follow him on Twitter at TSH678. Let's see. Any other works that you wanted to promote?
Pretty soon I'm gonna be starting the campaign to raise money for my animated show that I want to do. It's called Miseducation. It's based on the Lauryn Hill album. Every episode is gonna be based on a different record from the album.
Okay.
So I'll be announcing that on the channel soon. But other than that, like, nah, that's it. Thank you so much. This has been great. Honestly, like I've always wanted to like join like a platform and like talk about animation in this way. So this has just been great. Thank you so much.
No problem. I mean, hey, in the near future, or at least I've been wanting to revisit our greatest cartoons of all time list that we did a couple years ago. Shout out to Narado Moore and Roy Wood Jr. for joining us on that. We did a top 100 list, and it ultimately ended up, and I disagreed with number one. I'm not mad at number one, but I wouldn't have picked it number one. Number one was the Batman the Animated Series. And
I'm not mad at that.
We did it as a vote, and that was the one that kind of overwhelmingly got votes. But I think now that we've kind of refined the way that we do things, I would definitely want to try it again. And you know, I mean, I'd love to have you on board for that. So anytime, you know, you're always welcome on board. If you ever got a topic you want to hop on with, come on. But man, I'll definitely be reaching out to you anytime we do anything involving any animated medium.
I would love to. The quick question: what was number 2?
Man, I have to go back and re-listen, but I want to say it was something along the lines of Batman, Animaniacs, and Rugrats were in the top 3.
Whoa, yeah, I gotta be there.
Yeah, it's something. It was something wild like that. Like WB took a lot of slots. Pokemon was like 20 something. South Park was like 20 something, and the top 10 was man, I've got it written down on an old paper somewhere, but yeah, I'll send you the link if I haven't already with the episode. But I know for sure it was Batman and Animaniacs 1, 2, and Rugrats had to be up there at 3 or 4.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was something. There was a lot of debate. There was a lot of arguing. AJ, who you'll hear on there, was a big proponent of trying to launch the original Teen Titans up into the top 10, and none of us were really like with it like that. Like there were a lot of arguments that happened on that special. So yeah, make sure y'all go check it out while you're at it. thekidswearcrowns.com. Don't call it a podcast, just go to the podcast category and search for greatest cartoons of all time. Roy Wood Jr. helped us with I think it was 50 through 25, and Narado helped us with the top 24. So yeah, there was a lot of arguments, and hopefully we go back to that. So yeah, Tariq, once again, man, thank you so much. Make sure y'all follow him on the platforms listed above. Check out the page. There will be links to his YouTube channel as well as his Instagram and Twitter account. For D, who's not here and will be back with me next week because she had the unfortunate business of having to drive through Mississippi to get back home. I'm Ryan McLaughlin. You can follow me on Twitter at EagleEye1906 and follow us on Twitter at the KWC blog. Tariq, man, thank you once again, and we will see y'all next week.
All right, man. Thank you. It's an honor.